So, yesterday we learned about the difference between people who are mildly sick and people who are in what's called in between, meaning they're not about to die, but they're sick in their whole body and they're suffering. Um, so, like fever or something like that. Um, and we said that there's the problem of taking medicine on Shabbat is because of grinding of what's called shchikat samemanim. So a mortar and pestle, where somebody will take those and prepare the medicine. And so before we go on to today's halacha, I'll just mention that last night we read this paragraph from Kuzari, even though I mentioned it yesterday, I didn't remember the exact the exact location. So in the first essay in paragraph 79, um, part of a very long paragraph, the Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, as the Chaver, explains to the king of Khazar about what he thinks happened during the time between Adam and Abraham, so the 20 generations that Masechet Avot talk about, and he says it like this, and this is the parable. He is like an ignoramus who enters the surgery or office of a physician famous for the curative power of his medicines. The physician is not at home or not at the office, but people come for medicine anyway. The fool dispenses them out of the jars, knowing nothing of the contents, nor how much should be given to each person. Thus he kills with the very medicine which is supposed to have cured them. Should he by chance have effected a cure with one of the drugs, and I'm guessing that you can guess the result. Everybody would want that one because that's a miracle drug, because it obviously healed just now somebody. So the people will turn to him and say that he helped them will until they discover that that was also a deceit, and they seek other advice and cling to this without notice what the real cure was affected by the skill of the learned physician who prepared them. And so the idea of learning how to give medicine and how to prescribe it in the proper way is only after you go to medical school and you learn a lot. And his explanation was that that's what people were doing with idol worship. They pretended to know what the god small g wanted, and then it worked for a while. The Khazar even said, there's millions and millions of Muslims and Christians, so and you're all beaten up in such a small nation, so how is it? And he says, yeah, it's like that because those people are blindly following their leaders, but they don't know anything about the actual connection with God, capital G. So some maintain that one may take modern mass-produced medications on Shabbat for any type of ache or pain, as there is no real concern that anyone will grind anything in order to produce the medicine. I don't know how to make tano. I don't think anybody here does. However, most poskim maintain that even nowadays, one who is only mildly ill or bothered by an ailment may not take medicine on Shabbat. And just by the way, we said earlier when we were learning about tzovea, about coloring, that you're allowed to put iodine or all kinds of other things on a gauze pad, but the problem is not tzovea. The problem is again this idea of medication. So if you know that somebody has to change their bandages on Shabbat, then just prepare them in advance and close them, seal them hermetically. That way they can stay without any contamination. But anyway, those are the two opinions, and there are two reasons for this opinion about not taking medicine even modern day produced. First, according to many, no rabbinic enactment may be nullified except by a larger and more prominent Beit Din than the one that passed the enactment. So, for example, the kitniot prohibition has been going on for a little more than 1,000 years now. Also, the Tzavat, the decision of Rabbeinu Gershom or Golan not to marry two wives. And so there's no Beit Din today that is greater than those Beit Din that made those decisions. So it's both in quality and quantity. And by the way, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Kohen Maimon, who's only his signature on the Declaration of the Independence of Israel is with a Basad next to it. He actually wanted to start a Sanhedrin in the state of Israel, but it didn't work, and most people just didn't follow, and so it fell apart. And the second reason, some people still prepare household remedies, so there are cases where the reason for the enactment still applies. And this way, in order not to confuse you, people say that you shouldn't change this takana or gzera. In practice, as long as the ailment is merely irritating but not painful, it is proper to be stringent and avoid taking mass-produced medications. However, if the ailment causes pain, one may take medication because some maintain that the sages never prohibited taking medication when pain is involved. Even though many maintain that the sages' enactment applies even when pain is involved, in the case of mass-produced medication, where there is no concern that a private individual would try to prepare it themselves, it is proper to be lenient. So that's like almost like a compromise. It is worth nothing. It is worth noting that when the technical law allows leniency, it is proper to act according so as to fulfill the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbat. And so if somebody is walking around with a headache all day, even though there's no danger for their life, it can't be enjoyable for Shabbat in that way. And therefore, if one is bothered by an ailment of the eyes or ears, he should not use drops. However, if the ailment causes him pain, he should use the drops. The same applies to a runny nose. If it is merely irritating, one should not use nose drops, but if it causes pain, he should. Similarly, one may take sleeping pills to relieve insomnia, since without them he will suffer pain and also won't function properly on Shabbat. Perhaps we can suggest that if one is pained to the point that he would be willing to walk a kilometer in order to get medicine, so this is Rabbi Melamed's idea, and it indicates that he is truly suffering and may thus take mass-produced medications. However, if he thinks it is unnecessary to go that much trouble, it indicates that he has a mere ailment and he should thus refrain from taking medicine. So I'll just tell you what they do in Har Nof is that there's a small pharmacy that's across the street from the supermarket. I think it's still there, and the people know where the pharmacist lives. They're 100% Dati, Orthodox, and they basically, if you show them a prescription, they'll fill it. Otherwise, they'll just ask you if you can find out from somebody that has what's called gemach trufot, a gemach where people would lend you something. So in this case, if after Shabbat you're able to get the actual prescription, then you can replace what you got from that gemach. So we'll stop here and open up for questions.